Welcome to the Gaming Tailgate Podcast. You know what the main focus is going to be right out of the gate. The EA Sports College Football teaser trailer. Guys, let's get everyone in a good mood to start the day. Let's go straight to the trailer.
Got something special for y'all. A little update for our fans from the big house to the bayou, from Carolina to California. Yeah, it's about college football. We know you love it. Us too. The rivalries, comebacks, the traditions and superstitions built by generations. There's nothing like it. Turns out, we've been building too. So let's address the big owl in the room. Yeah, we've seen the posts, the predictions, the doubts. We get it. It's been a minute. Let's just say, this ain't the only jersey we've been working on. The game this sport deserves. Because pretty soon, this place will be full again. Until then, cue the crowd noise.
All right, guys, it kind of hit us by surprise last Thursday. We thought we were getting the school confirmations out of left field. We got the logo. We got a teaser trailer. Let's go straight. Tommy, what did you think when you saw it?
The heartbeat is alive again. I mean, it's definitely kind of put to bed a lot of the suggestions that, EA's not giving us anything. Obviously, we were impatient ourselves, but we knew it was coming eventually. You know, like you said, kind of caught off guard with it, and that's a good thing. But definitely, it is very much a teaser.
JB, what are your thoughts? When you saw, what you
think
think?
it tells you that they're going to put a lot behind it, and especially since it's the first time that this game has been out in 11 years, there's obviously a lot of hype behind it with the community, but I think they're going to try to reel in a lot of that casual crowd that may not have even touched it before. There is a generation that they may have been very young the last time this game was out, and now they're at the age that they're playing the newest and latest video games. So I think this is telling you that they're going to put an effort out into this, into at least to marketing this title for the summer.
And I wondered when you saw the team openers for a couple teams, are like Penn State and Oklahoma. I wondered, would they put the same details year one to those opening sequences? But it looks like, yes, they're going to try to put some of those in, if hopefully quite a few. That's one of those I was not sure about, but very glad to see it. The community feedback right off the bat, there's so much we could get to and say. I think the best way to sum it up is that when we shared it on the Gaming Tailgate Twitter account, it just got flooded with gifts from the office of Steve Carell saying it's happening. I think I saw that hundreds of times. The notifications on my phone would look like a slot machine, and that's putting it gently. It just was one constant scroll of responses and replies and gifts and everything else with it. I think that probably is the best way to sum up what the community thought about this. They did not expect this. Again, Matt Brown said they expect some school confirmations, which we'll talk about later. We didn't quite get those on Thursday, but we sure did get this trailer. Let's go through and break down some aspects. And if you see something through here, don't hesitate to stop me, but there's some things that I want to point out and get your thoughts as well. The community looking through this for a lot of Easter eggs, and I will say right off the bat, we had gate 25 shown, and then as it pans here, it goes from the 30 to the 20, so we get the 25. So right off the bat, the 25 was a big focus. I didn't catch that until a later replay. So they really gave a tease for the year.
As I say, the stadium section was also section 25, so yeah.
Oh, you're correct. I meant section, not gate. Yep.
Well, actually both. If you go to the very beginning, the
outside
Rose Bowl logo
is
gate 25. Yeah, right there. So yeah, or section 25, I guess. But yeah,
I kind of wonder if that was on purpose
25.
Because obviously that's the main part of the Rose Bowl's exterior. So maybe that was just a great coincidence.
They might have lucked into that one.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And this gentleman, I don't know his name. He goes by the Red Bull on Twitter. I don't know his official handle. Don't know who he is, but he put out a behind the scenes video. I thought that was pretty entertaining, just to see how this was done. And there's actually a stand-in for the sewing scenes we see later.
Stunt double.
I was gonna say you got to do your own stunts.
Yeah. He's gonna have to work on that for for the sequels, right?
Great shot here, though. I kind of like this shot.
And this one, Tubby Light, when people questioned if his leaks, the leak photo he got was legit, this confirmed that this is very much where they were at when we saw
Yeah.
them sitting in the bleachers, and that was him. We
No
couldn't see-
interview.
yeah, it wasn't quite an interview, but it was him getting ready, then getting ready to film him standing there dancing. So we kind of had it, but not exactly. There's the shirt. You could see that in the leak from Tubby Light. But until now, as soon as I saw that shirt, when I watched the trailer the first time, I thought, that's it. That's him. That's what we saw. That's who we saw in the leak. Of course, the reveal will be in May, launch in summer. Again, we had a stunt double for the sewing, which I think is pretty funny to say.
The strange thing is we were just seeing it a minute ago. A lot of the footage is actually like historical footage, not anything in the past, 10, 20 years, I would almost say. Like that one to me screams from late 80s, early 90s, based upon the hats and stuff like that.
I thought the same
USC
thing.
is probably even older.
Yeah, I'd say several of those are from the 70s. It's definitely something that kind of stood out. I don't know if that's just because maybe that footage was easier to get the rights to, or what the case was, but definitely kind of stood out there.
I have a theory on some of the aspects we see here, and let me play through the mascots, and I'll tell you a theory I have for some of this. Okay, some of the mascots we see there, between the footage and mascots, we have USC, Oregon, and Texas. It's interesting; those are pretty big brands. We do not see them later in the jerseys. Quick theory I had when I watched it and thought about it afterwards. Those are teams going to new conferences. Can they not perhaps show off the uniforms with the new conferences quite yet? I know that I believe UCLA has leaked. The uniform on a mannequin has been around social media. See, Oklahoma, Texas joined the SEC on July 1. The four Pac-12 that are going to the Big Ten join on August 2nd, technically. So I don't know if there's something to that. Maybe they can't show them off, and that's why we get it. But I agree with you. I didn't quite understand why the historical. Is that a tease to something else, or is that just because it looked cool? And they talk about the rivalry, so you want to show older footage. Let's get through the traditions. A lot of these, I think, people have probably studied and heard about these quite a bit online, so I don't think we need to break them down in any more detail.
The one thing I'll say here is EA is clearly steering into the whole idea of that the game's not coming out this year. And you didn't release it this year. We haven't heard anything. You didn't release it last year. Haven't heard anything this year. So clearly it's not coming out. It's a little bit of a nod to the fans that, hey, we are listening to you. So that's a good thing. I'm sure a lot of the very casual fans are saying, what? I hadn't heard. Is it not coming out? So
right.
It's kind of, on one hand, I guess it's a slight risk, but obviously, with it coming out, at least we'll solve that going forward.
And I did a brief look for some of these usernames today, and I didn't dig the deepest. I actually
no CDJs in there.
I did not actually find the couple I looked for. I did not find existing.
Yeah, I imagine they can't use an actual one,
or
faked them to protect the identities.
Yeah. I'll need to look a little deeper, but I thought this scene here, whoever came up with that idea and the ad agency deserved a bonus. That
absolutely
nod on the yard marker going from 14 to 25, symbolizing the end of NCAA 14 to College Football 25. I thought that was pretty smart whoever came up with that.
For sure. To me, that's kind of like one of the highlights that, that again, they are spending the time and effort to actually highlight that they are going from 14 to 25. I mean, again, you don't see those yardage markers like that laying around that can go from 14 to 25. So
yeah, so that was obviously a key focus of the whole point. They got that designed and developed along with the gold EA Sports thimble. I don't know if you noticed that when they zoom in on the stunt double working on the sewing machine, there's a gold thimble at the end that says EA Sports. I saw it.
I missed that one.
That Sports Gamer hit me or responded to us when we had posted clips and said he goes, I really need to get that from a Monopoly game night. And I kind of thought that too. If they're really smart, what they'll do is they'll have a trophy or achievement for 5 passing touchdowns. They'll call it Thread the Needle, and they'll have that thimble as the icon or the gold needle they show. There's a lot of gold I noticed through that scene, and that could be nothing, or it could be something drawing on the gold that goes with the college football playoff because everything that's football related is so much gold.
We've been talking about they should ship a physical item. Maybe, it's a gold thimble that they ship with it or something.
That's the pre-order bonus that might fit in the box.
Exactly.
That actually isn't the worst idea I've heard. We got some look behind the scenes of jerseys being developed, put in the game. I thought this was an interesting one, not because of local bias, because you're seeing a scene behind the scenes is what's going on here. A camera recording them scanning the jersey Uh, two things that stand out. First off, that's an old jersey
Yeah.
because it has the Adidas mark on it. The words, this past year, they just went to the larger Adidas. So this is from 2022 or earlier. And in the very next scene, I think we see an A&M jersey with the correct one. So I'm sure it'll be right in the final retail version. I'm not worried about that. But I think it's worth noting that when we saw the mascots earlier, those look like high-res images close up. You see something like this. First off, the mascots were probably the assets the school sent in. That makes me think that they're giving you a look at what they've been looking at, what they've been dealing with. And when I see a camera behind the camera here, really, my thought was, are we going to get a making of show for EA Sports College Football 25 like we did back with, I believe 13 and 14, but had that back in the day on ESPN.
Plus, it's very feasible this was filmed 2 years ago too.
Yeah, that's this stuff. If they've been filming stuff like this, maybe there is a show or something coming in down the pipeline. I've not seen anybody discuss or theorize that, but it seems like that would be such an easy win. A marketing put that out a week or two before the release of the game to get everybody hyped, especially the casual fans. That seems like a really an easy win.
Yeah, to me, I mean, honestly, this is something that's easy to miss in the trailer. Obviously, it kind of goes by fast, but like you said, it's an exact behind the scenes showing the technology they're using to scan the jerseys and things like that. That to me, that's awesome. I love seeing that kind of detail and. Obviously they've not talked about that. I've not ever thought of the idea of scanning them, but to me that makes complete sense. You can scan the stadium. Why not scan other artifacts like that?
Yeah, get the exact details down easily there.
Absolutely, you can make it 3-dimensional, just like we saw in the clips there of the jerseys. That you can see the details.
It's kind of cool to see this kind of unique things like this being used and seen. Of course, obviously they know we're going to be pausing this frame by frame, so they knew what they were doing.
And this is another angle kind of where they were sitting in the bleachers. We saw in the league, and at the time we saw something on the field. Well, that was the sewing machine setup.
Yeah,
I guarantee nobody guessed that. When that leak came out, nobody said, "Oh, that's a sewing table. That's a table and sewing machine out there at midfield."
Well, of course it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Some.
I kind of like how they kept the field like this, and didn't try to hide.
Yeah,
it being used after the playoffs. I kind of like that.
Yeah, because when we saw the leak, we even commented on the show like that field looks pretty rough. So depending what they're going to show, are they going to ignore the field or are they going to have to CGI it? Will it really fit with the theme of we're building, later on this thing's going to be full and looking good.
Yep. Look at him doing sewing without looking.
This poor guy had to stay there for 12 plus hours sewing and dancing. I hope
he got paid.
Yeah. As I say, I'm sure he's not poor from it.
No. Do you think they'll give out those jerseys to the influencers?
Oh,
I guarantee somebody has a physical version of that jersey by the end of it all.
We want to get to the last scene here. This is the one that a lot of speculation and rumors. And I'm someone who one of my favorite TV shows is Lost. So I love looking for Easter eggs and reaching on things. I don't know if you guys have heard this theory. One of the theories going around is that they put this scene in that they want us to look at the 6, the 7, and the 24. One of the theories is that it could be a release date. That would put June 7th, and everybody's saying in July. I don't know if I can see the game coming out a month earlier than normal, but we have speculated that either college football or Madden, one of those two is going to move out of the traditional release window, and maybe both of them. So that was the first thing that popped up. Did you guys see anything with those numbers?
To me, that's a little bit of a stretch. I mean, 24 frames per second, the 24 there is a standard for recording movies
that was
and commercials and things like that. So, I mean, that's
when we saw the teaser or those things that the 6 and the 7 weren't there.
No,
but the 24 was there.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense.
It is definitely darker, but then that could be, is there a big,
I mean, if they surprise announce
is it nothing?
If they surprise announce a demo on that May date, it's possible. Like you said, and like we've been saying, that the fall sports schedule is so truncated. It just is it's like 4 titles, four titles, one after another. So to let college football breathe a month ahead of time or 2 months ahead of time of Madden is not the worst idea in the world, considering college football does, typically start at least 2 to 3 weeks ahead of time.
And one thing I noticed is that this is a different clipboard than the one we saw in the league. I mean, same style, but the other one had the cinematographer on the bottom, and that's completely gone. Looking a little closer, like this text on the word friends looks a little weird. I don't know, maybe the label maker ran out, so they had to use a dry erase marker. Looks like there might have been some rain at the time, so maybe it got water on it. You can see water on here.
Well, it
Matt
looks like
Brown,
it's things you slide into it or something, as you can see
oh,
where
maybe. I couldn't tell if it's
the
like make a
outline.
tape or like a label put on or
Yeah, a
written,
label or yeah.
but Matt Brown talked about this article, or Matt Brown talked about this video and what he had heard and reported. He stated in that he had heard that EA was going to lean even more into the speculation of, kind of the jokey, we've heard you say we're not coming, and maybe they kind of toned it back a little bit. So I wonder if this scene was just left in because maybe it's a remnant of that earlier design, earlier talk where, it's, tell your friends we're coming. So I want to say that I would love to believe a good conspiracy theory or Easter egg of something with June 7th. I don't know that I would believe it right now. I don't think there's
Yeah,
enough to
no,
go with it. I want to.
yeah,
I want to so badly, but I don't think
yeah,
there's
of
anything.
course. I mean, I'd love to have the game a full month early,
Right.
but no, to me, I mean, like you said, you can read things into it, and maybe it comes to fruition. But again, I think it's just kind of EA kind of doing a last kind of wrap the
Mhm.
commercial up and tell your friends kind of thing. So
The only thing I would say is I started to think, well, how many words, or excuse me, what words have 6 letters in the first word and 7 in the second? Online Dynasty. I doubt. I know there's no T's here, but I mean, I tried to reach. I
yeah,
really,
yeah.
I really did.
June 7th is a Friday though.
That is true. I did think that was like when I looked at the calendar. That's the only thing that I think that lends some credence to it, but only like 0.1%. As of right now,
Yeah.
I would say there's nothing here.
Yeah, I mean, at the same time, if they start releasing information in May, then that would only be a month ahead of when the game releases. So I don't think EA would do that. I think they would at
Mm.
least give themselves 2 months.
We want to do a quick shout out though to a couple people. First, the Solid Verbal on their most recent episode, which is currently only on Patreon. I think it'll go public later this week. They give a quick shout out to the Gaming Tailgate. They were talking about people they're really excited that the game is back for, and Ty and Dan made sure to mention us. They knew that for a long time we've been big fans of the game, and in the past they have come to us when they wanted questions from the community to ask developers for on their show. They came to us and got those from the community. So they shouted us out along with Matt Brown, and want to say really appreciate that. Also, we want to give a shout out to the EA VP of Global Marketing, Communications, and Partnerships for EA Sports, John Riesberg. He shared our Twitter thread of all of the in-game graphics. We went through and got screen grabs from the trailer of the Penn State, the Oklahoma, the jerseys, stuff like that. He shared that out on Twitter, and we really appreciate that. I would say with that title he has, his business cards have to be this long, or else he has really small font on it.
It's
All
a
right.
ruler.
Now let's get to more news and speculation here. This one's kind of a 3-part thing here, and it all tied together when we get to the end of it. This is something I believe came out a while back, but it kind of resurfaced over the last few days. This is Charles Davis. He's one of the commentators on Madden NFL, and he's been there for several years. He is on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, and he's talking about his time working on the game and also the future. This is very interesting here.
Of course, they had the college game, which is coming back.
Yeah.
Now they're going to expand, Garrett. I don't know if you've seen it, heard it yet. There are going to be multiple announced teams going forward.
That gives you
an opportunity to change up who you're listening to.
That's crazy.
I think at this point, a lot of people would say, if I hear Davis's voice one more time, I'm going to do something that's going to get me in trouble.
Okay, so I believe there's an edit in there, so it implies that college football is getting multiple announced teams. I believe he's just talking about Madden because he goes in there at the end and he says, if you don't want to listen to me, you don't have to. So I think he let that cat out of the bag. When he posted that, I do want to get to the community stuff here real quick before we keep going to the speculation. We asked, if college would get multiple announced teams, who do you want? Josiah Forsythe said Chris Fowler. He's on that train. He's not going to let off until Fowler's in the game. Pepe Schultz. Keep Gus Johnson far away from this game. Give me Sean McDonough and Todd Blackledge, even though they aren't partners anymore. Lorenzo Jordan says Chris Fowler and Herbstreit and Holly Rowe. Gus Johnson, Joel Klatt, Jenny Taft. Oh, Fox Sports, that's interesting. Brad Nessler and Gary Danielson and Jenny Dell. Josh B. Fine says, oh yeah, that's really going to fix the game. Hashtag Madden sucks. So I guess he's not looking forward to more commentators. BS Slayer says, anyone but extremely overhyped and absolutely garbage announcer Gus Johnson, get that guy out of all games. Can't stand him. He's not good at all.
I think Gus Johnson is a bit polarizing here.
Yeah. I sense it. I like Gus, but I mean, I do hear criticism out there.
Yeah, I mean, in general, I like him too. He can, he can go a little bit too over the top a lot of times, but at the same time, I mean, he brings excitement and passion to the game. You can definitely tell.
Yeah, that's where him in March was perfect, but then when he left CBS
Yeah.
and brought that to everyday broadcasting, it kind of maybe wore a little thin. I would not be surprised if we see Herbstreit in Madden just because of the fact of the Amazon Prime deal.
Mhm.
I don't think we're gonna have Al Michaels, though it'd be very cool to have him on there. I doubt he wants to sit down and record line after line for a video game. But Herbstreit and somebody else they could pair for a play-by-play. I would not mind for Madden. But yeah, that was a weird edit. That was clearly, I think, meant for
Yep.
Madden and not
Yeah,
college football.
there was a time jump, and obviously I'm sure it was intentional, just
Yeah.
to kind of get some
To mention the
clickbait
title.
a little bit.
It was cool in college basketball when EA did it
Mhm.
for March Madness, but that's something you're probably going to see years down the line. I mean, look how many years in this generation we are with Madden, and we're just now seeing it with this current gen on Madden.
And B.S. Slayer came back one last time. He wanted to say Davis sucks terribly too. That guy is the single most annoying announcer out there. So many better options.
He must listen to
tough
Slayer
crowd.
while he plays his Madden.
Tough. Yeah, I think that's what that means. So tough crowd out there, guys. I'm not gonna.
Gus Johnson,
and-
not
and-
popular with the EA crowd.
I said Davis needs to take down the Christmas decorations behind him.
He loves
Right?
winter, guys. I
Yeah.
think this was aired in December because that's when the first news kind of came out. But at the time we didn't want to put two and two together. But let's keep digging here. People had noticed that once EA Sports came out with this teaser trailer, they went and looked to see who EA Sports College started to follow on Twitter. Initially, they only had one person that they were following, and it was at EA Sports. At some point after Tuesday, they started following Ed Reed, Charles Woodson, Ryan Clark, Michael Vick, Robert Griffin III, and Coach Prime. All those guys went ahead and put out EA partner tweets, but the initial speculation in the community was, oh, Coach Prime, is he going to be on the cover? Is he going to be involved? Because obviously he's the only active one in this group within college football. At this time, I would lean towards saying that these guys are probably all for the most part going to be an ultimate team.
Yeah,
And they're
that's my first thought,
great
too.
college legends. So they wanted
'Cause-
to get the involvement. And Prime helps because everything he endorses is gold. So I can understand you would want him on that side of it. So then the speculation on that was that Coach Prime is going to be in the game. I don't know if I believe that, but I can understand where people would think that. Something I
Real
want to
quick,
bring up. Yes.
sorry, real quick, what's the EA partners thing? I guess I haven't read into that.
I think it's basically they've been paid by EA to endorse or advertise.
to help. Gotcha.
Like we paid you for this tweet. I think
Yep.
it's what they got to do legally is put out disclaimers that you're being paid to say this stuff. Something on Instagram, and this has been this way for a while. They had 6 people they were following right off the bat when they made this account, basically 3 years ago. EA, ESPN, Sports Center, ESPN College Football. Let me go up here. EA Sports Insider, and College Football on Fox. At the time, I didn't think too much of it. I thought it was a little unique. Why are they following them? But then if you pair that with Charles Davis,
Gus Johnson's in the game.
Matt, I wouldn't go that far. But if you pair that with
No.
Charles Davis saying multiple announced teams in Madden, all of a sudden now this puts a little smoke. Is there going to be multiple announced teams? I don't know if I'd go that far yet. And as we record this about 30 minutes ago, I saw on social media, other sites were finally picking up on that they were following College Football on Fox. But that's not a new follow. The new follows are these other individuals: RG3, Mike Vick, Charles Woodson, Denard Robinson, Ryan Clark, Ed Reed, Ricky Williams, Fred Taylor, Channing Crowder, Brian Bosworth. Those are
Who's
the new ones.
considered the top team at Fox for college football nowadays?
It's Gus and Joel Klatt, isn't it?
Are they considered the ones?
I believe they're the ones that followed Colorado around the first 2 weeks. So I would say yes.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how I tell. I believe Gus and Joel Klatt. So I think there might be a little bit of smoke, but it's one of those things. We talked about this when we did our prediction show. Multiple announcements, we kind of viewed it as a later on aspect. But if the tech is there for both, who knows? I'm not going to rule it out. I'm not saying it is something. I'm also not saying it isn't something. Excuse the double negative in that sentence. But we do want to bring that to everybody's attention because it's starting to gain traction on social media with internet detectives. Matt Brown had reported that on Thursday we started getting the school confirmations. Instead, we got the trailer, which I think is a pretty good upgrade. However, after that point, some schools started to put out tweets. Obviously, we know from the teams in the trailer, they're probably going to be in the game. That's all but given. But then some schools started to put out mock covers. They put out tweets responding to the game, retweeting the trailer, which seems to also imply that they're more than likely confirming their involvement and participation in the title. What's interesting is, yes, we expect all 134 teams. Matt Brown has reiterated that it sounds like behind the scenes he has heard that those all 134 FBS teams will be in. We get some confusion, though, because a lot of FBS and other schools were posting cover mock-ups as well. On the Gaming Tailgate, we have a confirmation tracker that basically for every school, if we see something on Twitter or some other site confirming their involvement, we're listing it and we're linking to the tweet. Again, the confusion comes in from FCS schools and other schools were making tweets as well. Some of these FCS kind of make sense, like a Jackson State would make sense. The one that's internet detectives, and I don't blame people for this, they see these random schools and think, okay, we're going to get FCS. Well, one of the schools that put out a fake cover was the University of Saskatchewan. I feel confident in saying that Canadian college teams will not be in the game. I don't feel like I'm going out on a limb here.
Come on now, they're really blowing it all out this year.
Yeah, they leaked.
They're getting their own separate game.
Yeah,
yeah.
EA college football, Canadian college football 25A. What's interesting is Gardner Webb put out some graphics. And their very first one started off with them saying EA Sports, Gardner Webb is in the game. They deleted that tweet and social media on Saturday evening. They came back, I don't remember if it was later that night or Sunday, and they changed the text to, why not put the dogs in the game? So I don't know if that was confusion on the public's part led to that. Did EA contact them? I can't think on a Saturday night what would be the impetus for that exactly. Another interesting tweet, and I'll load this up here. Jackson State, they put out their response to the news of EA Sports College Football teaser trailer and schools. What's interesting here, they say, can we make sure the vet and other SWAC stadiums are rendered in the game EA Sports College? I think it's interesting. They asked for the stadium. They did not ask for the teams. I'm not saying that's something. Again, my catchphrase tonight, I'm not saying it's something. Also not
They're saying the teams
something.
are a given, but the stadiums haven't been yet.
That's
so you're telling me there's a chance.
I don't want to get anybody's hopes up. I'm trying to be, laid back on this. But when you start reading the way some of these things are written, it makes you wonder.
Yeah.
So
I would absolutely love to start our old online dynasties and we all are like in FCS and see how long it takes us to get to like a major school. I'd kind of love to do that with online dynasty.
I would think the extent that they would do it would be maybe have the uniforms, maybe have the logos, not have the stadiums, but at the same time, they're not going to let you have FCS and FBS in the same league. I mean, yeah, you can promote a school up to FBS to replace a school or something like that, but I would be very shocked if they actually had both seasons running parallel and that you could participate in both, so to speak.
Well, you mentioned CDJ. You mentioned in a DM something about this could be, or it might have been Tommy. I can't remember what, but this could be transfer portal related too.
I think at the very least they would need the names of the schools, like in a database or spreadsheet. So when the transfer portals players emerge and declare, you're going to need some FCS players that you really don't know much about. In terms of you need to have the potential boom or bust players, because with the existing FBS players, you're going to know all their ratings. Unless something is done drastically different behind the scenes as compared to what we had in years past, you need to have some variables. So I think you would need to have at least text-based FCS names in there. I cannot envision an FCS season. I can envision maybe a handful of teams in the way Tommy described, maybe the uniforms, maybe no stadiums, at least that way, just so maybe the FCS directionals are gone.
I could see a season ahead of stadiums because seasons are pretty straightforward. It's a bracketed championship, so I could see that being a little more realistic as opposed to the actual stadiums, especially in year one, as opposed, down the line, of course, let's put them in fully, and do some things with it. But year one, I mean, now that both have a playoff system, a season and not maybe not a dynasty strictly in FCS, but maybe allowing it to be part of your online dynasty. I mean, I don't see it being impossible, honestly.
I don't. Long term, short term, I would be shocked. I'd be surprised if any teams were in. I'd be really, really shocked if it was more than if we got anything more beyond just plain out teams, basically, or fill-ins in dynasty.
These schools are seeming pretty excited, though.
That is true.
I'd say, yeah, there's something to it. I mean, again, like you said, it could just be the name in a menu or something like that. But
would they be that excited for that, though?
I mean, they don't know that that's all it is. They just know, hey, we're in the game. I mean, if you tell some social media person that, yeah, you're in the game. Oh, hey, we're in the game. That's all they're going to hear,
And they may not know fully what's going on. They know it gets clicks and likes. I'm sure they follow each other. And you got to think UNLV's in the game. their mock-up cover said NCAA football 25. It didn't have the college football 25. So,
No, it
some of
didn't
that
even,
may be
I don't even
reaching
think
for
it had a
clicks and
year.
likes.
Yeah,
Oh,
if I'm
maybe
not
it
mistaken,
didn't.
it didn't have a year. It was just NCAA football.
Yeah.
So
So, a couple other things before we run out of the show time here. Matt Brown was on 365 Sports Podcast, and he talked about the process on getting player likenesses and faces into the game. What he has heard, it sounds like from EA, because he does clarify several times during this podcast or interview that he's been in contact with game developers. Let's play this clip.
Found it. What I'm told is going to happen is once spring ball's done and the transfer windows are closed and we have a pretty good idea who's actually going to be on the team, leading into this year, that EA is going to use a company called One Team Partners. That they're going to send out a contract through, I think it's the CLC Compass app that many players already have installed on their phones to inspect the terms. They opt in. The EA will use the headshots from their official team photos to create a digital rendering of the player. Player gets the base check, and the player's likeness is put in the game. And if the player doesn't sign the paperwork, then that guy's IP is not going to be in the game. You'll have a randomized player. So I don't think they're going to get everybody just because some 20-year-olds are not going to sign paperwork, because that's what 20-year-olds do. But the intention is to get thousands and thousands and thousands of people into this game.
Okay, so if you didn't catch that, basically he believes players will be able to opt in through an app. When he talks about they opt in and get their face in the game, I have to be honest, though, when I first heard that, and I don't know why I thought this, I probably was jumping to conclusions in my mind. It seemed like when he said, put their avatar or picture in the game, is there going to be tech where EA can just take their portrait on the team website and somehow make that digital? But then later I thought, no, I wonder if this is just they look at that's the picture they're using and they make it. But it was interesting because I don't know what way he meant with that. But
the NBA app kind of did something like that.
Well, I'm thinking
Except
even not just a face scan, but if you just can take a picture of somebody and somehow make like an avatar.
I'd say back in the day they had that where you could upload two photos of a front and a side, and I don't remember what game it was. There was a boxing game, if I'm not mistaken, but there was other EA games that had it too. But again, here you're only seeing from the front, so I'd be
tougher.
How is that going to look?
It's all you need with a helmet. With a helmet, that's all you need.
Because they won't have helmets coming off. That is a good point, Jeremy. They might just the front might be enough.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah.
And hopefully these kids, they talk to each other, their teammates. Hopefully they go, hey, nudge them and say, hey, just go in here, hit yes, and let's get in the game. Hopefully
I got a feeling most will say yes. I don't think.
Yeah, hopefully that isn't a big problem.
And
it could be like there was a 989 sports college basketball game back in the day. 989 is long gone now. But
PS1, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. They had literal pictures for their faces. Like it was a flat face, but then they just smashed a picture of the person's face on front of it. It's maybe that's just all they do.
The last time we want to bring up for wrap up the show on the Until Saturday podcast. They talked a little bit about the teaser trailer and return of the game. They did mention that on Tuesday's podcast, Ari Wasserman will interview Kirk Herbstreit regarding the return of EA Sports College Football and also talk about Nick Saban joining College Game Day. Now, it's unknown if Herbstreit is in EA Sports College Football. Will this podcast include or correspond with some kind of announcement? Or maybe if it's just a retrospective on his time working on the game in the past. Ari did reveal last year that he visited EA Sports to provide feedback on Dynasty Mode. He was one that brought up that the Dynasty Mode, they're trying to make it very realistic. He used the word territories. I don't know if he let that slip, if that's an official term from the game. We speculated on what that might mean. And we've also heard from other outlets. The Solid Verbal had Matt Brown on, and they had mentioned kind of briefly that they knew of other media members and current and former coaches who EA Sports have brought in to look at the game, provide feedback, especially on Dynasty Mode, to make it as realistic as possible. Guys, what are your thoughts quickly here? First of all, I want to say thanks to Oni Kuno from the site. He was the one who tipped me off to this, mentioned on the podcast. I was trying to go through and listen to every podcast I could find, especially in the national outlets when they talked about the teaser trailer. I had not gotten to them yet. So he tipped me off and was able to get me pointed in the right direction to learn that Tuesday could be a little bit of news. I don't know if I'd plan on it, but it's worth keeping our ear to the ground on. You coincide that with the other news we had of multiple announcements. Maybe Herbstreit's in both Madden and college football. I doubt it. I think that'd be Kirk overkill. He would never get any time to himself recording. But still, I think it's interesting that, Ari's been there and talking with Kirk on Tuesday could be interesting news.
Well, in terms of Kirk being in both games, I see it as a possibility only because, yes, he would have to record a lot more lines, but he also could do it all on kind of a similar time schedule that he's done it before. A lot of the lines maybe could be used in both games. I mean, obviously, talking about obviously the NFL and college football are different, but at the same time, obviously they both are passing the ball and running the ball. So I mean,
Right,
he can,
of course,
at
the
least
same.
general ones can have the same thing. So
Right.
I mean, it's still a possibility. Like you said, that's a lot of work, but anything can happen. So definitely, though, interested to hear what they have to say. Obviously, it's all but a given that he'll be in the EA college football game. But it's now, can he give us a little bit more information about what's going to happen and how he's going to be in the game or something like that?
And Ari, he was one who kind of had the loose lips and let it out that he had been there and talked about, mentioning there were territories and talking about, recruiting. So maybe he'll let something slip again if we're lucky.
You're talking about territories, something that Madden uses with scouting. So maybe they're going to use a similar thing with your scouting experts, and they've got certain regions of the country where they're better at than others, and maybe they're doing little something pulling from Madden, including it into the recruiting part of the college football game.
With that, we're going to wrap up this edition of the Gaming Tailgate Podcast, but it's worth noting that Matt Brown has reported that the shift, we thought we were going to get those school confirmations on Thursday, and yeah, we got some social media posts, but he did say that he had heard now it'll be early next week, which means this week, February 19th. Real quick, Tommy, I know you want to add something about how the schools handle this very unique 134 different plus possibly schools announcing it kind of on their own.
For sure, yeah. I mean, it's to me, it's almost a little uncoordinated from the school side. I mean, were they all supposed to do cover art photos? To me, that makes perfect sense. Or were they supposed to just add their own little spin to it if they wanted to or whatever? As we saw, some schools did cover art, some schools did just a retweet with a can't wait kind of message. And then others, I think Bowling Green and Cal both did a interview with the players of asking what they thought their ratings would be, that kind of thing. So it is interesting. As recently as today, Florida State posted theirs. So like you said, it's still going to continue to trickle out. Again, it'll be interesting to see, a week from now if there's something else that comes out of this, or, maybe one school just happens to have a screenshot that's hidden in the mix of everything else. Who knows? Just a guess, of course. But, at the same time, it's interesting that they're all a little bit different, and all are kind of a little bit, I guess, interest level is a little bit different for each of them, like how much effort they put in and that kind of thing.
That's one of the previous shows we had talked about. Like some of these schools take this very, very seriously. They understand the hype and potential there. And other schools really, I mean, no offense, and to put it nicely, they really couldn't care less. But it might come down to the social media team and the creative teams. If they're not big into video games or playing video games, it may not mean a lot to them.
It was like that in the past, just trying to get details anyway. There was teams that were gung-ho about it, and there were teams that were dragging their feet on it back in the day.
And we've heard that from Brandon Marcello. One of his reports, he talked about Arkansas State was the example he mentioned of, struggling to let them in to visit, which I thought was interesting if that is the case.
I will say I'm going through our list the list we posted on all the schools and tracking them down. I just clicked on the Duke football one because I was curious what they posted, and it has since been deleted. So I don't know what was up there before, but it may be they want to do something different, or maybe EA saying, "Hey, don't go yet," or something. Who knows?
Yeah. That's the problem. Like you said, with 134 schools, I'm sure they all got the same email. But not everyone's checking that all the time, so I don't know how you coordinate something like that. And so Matt Brown had speculated or stated that EA shifted on the fly, and I'm sure that happens. I'm sure that can happen. But I find it tough to believe that EA Sports is so loosey goosey, because that'd be the second or third on a dime change we've had with the marketing approach between rumors and reality this year. But I find that a little difficult to believe.
Well, and you can't shift quickly with 134 schools. So,
Yeah.
I mean, if you're trying to really, if you really did make a last minute decision, then that's a poor decision on whoever decided that,
Yeah.
I understand. Yeah. Release the trailer, go for it, but don't have them hold up and then, 2 of them go and 10 of them go and 4 of them go, whatever. It's, you got to coordinate a little bit better than that.
Yeah, so it could be an interesting week between, like we mentioned, wrapping up that Until Saturday podcast with Herbstreit and also the schools. Hopefully EA, like we mentioned last week, hopefully they tie this up in a bow, clarify what schools are in or out, because if the FCS schools kind of hanging out there, the fans of those programs, to get their hopes up, they're not going to be let down. And it looks like we might be headed that way potentially.
The thing is we may not get very much information like official information until May. You know, that's kind of what EA said, is expect the big release of information in May. So yeah, there'll probably be a trickle of things between here and there, but you know, are they going to announce all schools now, or are they going to wait until, you know, 1st of May or something like that?
So with that, we're going to wrap up this edition of the Gaming Tailgate Podcast. Check us out everywhere you can find podcasts, on YouTube, and also at thegamingtailgate.com. For Tommy and Jeremy, I'm CDJ. Everyone, thank you for listening and watching.